Welcome, everyone, to episode 26 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name's Kevin. I'm here with just Doug this week. We don't have Owen. And today we're going to be talking about the newest movie in the Indiana Jones franchise, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We'll also cover some news at the end of the episode. And as always, please share the episode, like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow our Twitter and rate us on Spotify, or just follow us on Spotify if you're not already. And before we get into anything else, let's talk about what we watched this week. You want to go first, Doug, or you want me to go
Oh
first?
Lord, what did I watch this week? Hold on. I watched what did I watch this week? I watched El Topo. The
You saw that
by
in theaters, right?
Yeah, I saw El Topo in theaters and that was fucking dope. That was so cool. And I
Yeah.
saw Temple of Doom and I saw I don't know. I watched like Last Tango in Paris.
Mhm.
Um the Animal Crossing movie. I didn't watch a whole lot. Uh
Yeah.
Rewatched Asteroid City. It's I don't know. It was kind of a slower week for me. I didn't actually watch. I didn't have a lot of time to actually sit down. What did you
Yeah.
watch, Kevin?
Slow week for me as well, a little bit. I watched Tongues Untied right before Pride Month ended, which is definitely a movie I'd recommend to pretty much everybody, whether it's Pride Month or not. Just like an amazing documentary. Marlon Riggs is one of our best documentary filmmakers ever, really. I've only seen two of his documentaries, but they're both like perfect, so no arguments from me. And then I finally got around to watching Showing Up, the new Kelly Reichardt movie from this year, which I didn't get to see in theaters because it wasn't playing near me, and it's one of my favorite movies I've seen from her so far. It's really really good. And that was I watched a couple of her shorts as well. The short Travis, and then she has a short called Owl that is just a 3 minute video of an owl on a tree. And then I started my Mission Impossible binge. And I've gotten through two of them, and hopefully we'll be done with the rest of them before the new one comes out. So very excited to watch the rest of those.
That's yeah. The Owl movie sounds cool.
No, the owl was cool. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, her shorts are interesting. She has like some stuff that's like not feature length but shorter that I still have to get around to. Like there's like a 30 or 40 minute movie that I hear is really good that I haven't gotten around to. So I'll check that out eventually. But the Travis short that she made, the other one I watched, is really really interesting. It's like testimony of a, or not even testimony. It's like a radio interview of this mom who lost her son in the Iraq War, I think. And it's just her like kind of repeating like the same couple lines over and over again, and it's like 11 minutes long. And there's not really any, it's just like colors on the screen, but the yeah, it's pretty sad stuff. It's pretty tough watch, or listen, I guess. But
Yeah,
anyway,
fucked up.
uh, let's jump into some Indiana Jones stuff. I think we gave this the same rating, correct?
Indiana
Maybe.
Jones and the Dial of Destiny is
Yeah.
a five bomber out of 10.
Yeah, five out of 10. Well, if you combine both of our scores, then it adds up to five, I think,
Yeah,
right? Because we both
yeah,
gave it 2.5. Yeah. I don't know. Just to get some general stuff out of the way, I guess. I think, at least where I don't think it's like the worst thing ever. Like it's definitely not like, in terms of like really bad sequels that we don't need coming out, it's not the worst we could have gotten, but I do think it's my least favorite of the Indiana Jones movies for sure.
yeah. Well, the funny thing about Owen not being here is that I don't think we're gonna be that kind of harsh on it. Honestly,
Yeah, no, not too harsh.
because I know that he really fucking hated this movie.
Yeah,
um, I don't think it's that bad. I mean, it's like not good. I think that there's some inexcusable things about it when you
I
know
agree.
about the whole movie in context and you know like how movies are made and stuff. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like for example, this is one of the 20 most expensive movies ever made in the entire
That's
history of
insane. It
movies.
is not making that money back, is it?
It
I
has
I heard it's gonna finish with a 60 million or 80 million opening weekend this weekend,
Yeah, 80 million opening
which
weekend, which is not great. It could have. I mean, it's not making its money back. It's
yeah.
it needed to do way better than that. It has just a hair under $300 million reported budget, which
Hmm.
of course is not including marketing. Very expensive movie. A ridiculously expensive movie. And I'll tell you what, Kevin. You
Yeah.
don't see it on the screen. You don't see it.
No, no,
You
not
don't see it
really.
on the screen at all.
Not really. I was yeah, I mean obviously um yeah, I don't know. There's some scenes I guess that are exciting or like fun, but in general it's really surprising to hear that it's that high budget of a movie because there's not really any one thing in particular that stands out. I imagine obviously like some of the technical stuff like the de-aging and stuff is probably pretty pricey,
Yeah,
but
that shit is. I imagine that stuff's really expensive. And
yeah.
also like Harrison Ford, I imagine got paid a kind of
Yeah, a good
a
amount.
yeah. Um, but I don't know. It
Yeah.
doesn't. Well, I guess it's because like they did shoot on location for a lot of the stunts and stuff, and I guess
Hmm.
that's good, and that is something
Yeah.
that you like do kind of see on screen. Like it doesn't totally feel like they're on a green screen. Because like they're not. Um,
Yeah.
but and that's expensive. But I don't know. It doesn't. You just like you don't see it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't know. I think it just like got to the movie theater. I kind of like thought it just like really started to drag for a lot of it. It kind of just like got really boring to me throughout, and it almost like picks up at the end, which we'll get to, but only because it's just like when we got to that ending part, I kind of just like had to laugh. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" A little bit, so it pulled me back in a little bit there. But now that I'm like trying to recall the movie, I'm really forgetting a lot of what happens between the beginning and the end, other than I guess like some that the underwater stuff kind of stood out to me a little bit. But again, not because it's particularly good. I
Yeah.
just memorable, I guess.
Um, the
Yeah,
movie's
I don't know.
like a very much a long, like a prolonged chase. Kind of like just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
somebody chasing after another person, which isn't like a unique thing, to Indiana Jones. But for this one
yeah. Of course.
specifically, it does feel like very much like, oh, they're just chasing each other, and this is another set
Yeah,
piece, and they got to this place, and now they're gonna get chased again, and now we're going over to this place, and they're gonna get chased again.
yeah.
Uh,
Because at least when Spielberg's doing it, it's exciting because he just has control over it. That I think that's another. It's just like a dull movie almost a little bit because it doesn't just like have the glamour of the other movies, even the ones that people would consider bad, I guess. But
yeah, well, it's like the thing. The reason why Raiders of the Lost Ark is such a masterpiece, right, is because like it has that kind of like expertise, like that like perfect
yeah,
blocking, and that like it's like shot on film with the really dynamic lighting,
yeah,
uh, and there's just so much thought going into it, that makes
yeah,
it, and it just comes together so well. And this is so bland, without even talking about like the specifics of what happens in the movie. It felt like the whole movie was also not only just a chase, but it felt like the whole movie was just shot, reverse shot, then medium shot. It was like shot, reverse shot, then cut to medium shot, like over and over and over and
yeah,
over again for the whole movie. And it's like we can have like some different shots in here to like make it more
yeah.
interesting. I don't know.
No, I agree. And I think as we're, I'm looking at some of the topics we want to talk about this episode, and I think that's probably a good time, not the order I intended, but I think probably good time to start with talking about James Mangold as a director, I guess, because that's we're already on the subject of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So the big question as far as that goes is James Mangold a good director for hire, and should people be getting excited for his new movies to come in the future? What do you have to say about that, or
Um
about James Mangold in general? I guess.
I think that so here's the thing. I kind of wish Owen was here to talk about this too, because
Yeah,
I think that he is a good director. I think that
yeah,
James
I agree.
Mangold is a good director. That being said, I don't think that he's necessarily the kind of guy where if Specifically, let me rephrase that. I think James Mangold is uh a good director for hire specifically. I think that James
Yeah,
Mangold is a guy who like you're like, oh, like there's this movie that's gonna come out and it's like, oh, like, well, who's gonna direct it? And it's like, oh, James Mangold. It's like, oh, that's like, that's probably a solid like safe choice, right? I don't think that
yeah,
James Mangold is like an auteur. I don't think that you should get excited for like, oh, written and directed by James Mangold.
yeah.
But if you're like, oh, like new Star Wars movie directed by James Mangold, it's like, okay,
It makes sense.
yeah, that could be good.
Yeah, I
Like
think he's. I think when we're like when you look at like Indiana Jones, for example, I just think he's just like a very logical choice, which is why I could get behind it. Because I think when you look at like his history as well, like when it comes to like these big blockbuster movies that are part of like already existing IPs, obviously he did amazing with Logan, or by most people's standards, did amazing with Logan.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, just like stuff like that. And then there's also like, I don't know, he's interesting to me as well because some of his movies that I haven't seen are movies that I like really want to check out. So I know he's definitely like a capable
like
director
310 to
because
Yuma or
yeah, I
like
want to watch
yeah.
that one and I want to watch Girl Interrupted as well. And even Walk the Line I want to see because Joaquin's in that one and I still haven't watched it and I know he's
Yeah.
really good in it apparently. But like I don't know, I like Logan a lot. I think I like Ford v Ferrari a lot and probably more than most people I like that movie. That was actually one of my favorite movies that year, but maybe it's just cuz it's like very like my brand, like just really appealing to me personally. I don't know. And I thought even then in Ford v Ferrari, he at least shoots the racing in like a very entertaining way, which is proof that he's kind of a good person to have for like an action adventure movie, kind of, at least compared to like who else they could have gotten for this job.
Yeah, it's there's he has definitely some experience. This is another thing where it's like it's hard to make these expensive movies. Like it is a difficult thing to do to be a
Yeah.
director for a big project like this. And he has some experience working with like larger set pieces with a lot of moving points in it. And I think that that's kind of important when you like are looking for, oh, who do you want to direct my $300 million
Yeah.
Indiana Jones rebirth? It's like, oh, sure, like this guy. Um, so like there's some like technique there, and he seems like he's like pretty good with like dealing with personalities because like he has experience working with like celebrity with like Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale and or whatever,
Yeah.
and so it's like, yeah, he seems like he's a good choice, but then it's also, people on Twitter are calling him the most sauceless like filmmaker working today, and it's like, yeah, but I just don't think that you can judge him like that from Indiana Jones. It's just a hunch that I have where I think that there's like way more going on here that is outside of his control.
Yeah. I'd
Um,
probably agree with that.
it's probably I don't know these for facts. I'm just like guessing. I imagine it's not his crew that's working on the movie. I imagine that it's like not his. It's probably not like his ideal cinematographer that he has like a great relationship with, and like stuff
Yeah.
like that. I imagine that like aren't coming in to work on the movie with him. I imagine this is like pretty much like a for hire kind of situation, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Although now that I do look at his cinematographer, they have worked together quite a number of
oh,
times, it
so okay, yeah,
seems.
maybe I am wrong then. Maybe
They worked together on Ford v Ferrari, Walk the Line, and 310 to Yuma. So
oh, so maybe
uh,
he did work on his crew then. Maybe he
maybe
this
I don't know. It's just yeah. I think I see where you're coming from though, because I one, it's like I don't think that this is the end all be all for him, specifically because it's like I like kind of what I said before. I just think it's like on paper such a logical choice that if you were going to get a director for hire, it would be somebody like him, like somebody along the lines of him. And I think when you look at people that are probably like in that same category, he's got to be one of the better options with like his recent track record at least.
yeah,
So
that's what I was gonna say. Like, who are like director for hires that are better than him, right? That aren't kind
yeah,
of like because like the next level would be somebody like a Denny Villeneuve who like isn't really in this situation.
yeah,
Like he's like a little bit too elevated for that, but like is he because he's like definitely one of the better ones because I think that like another example would be like Andy Muschietti, the guy that just directed The Flash.
Yeah.
James Mangold, I would take like 10 times over 10
Yeah,
rather than
I'd
that
prefer if
guy.
James Mangold directed The Flash. I don't know that it would be any better, but because it's like a messy movie to start with. But yeah, I if we're just picking directors, I'll take James Mangold 10 out of 10 times. I think at least right now.
Yeah, I think like maybe the only guy that is better than him in like this kind of level when we're talking about like in the business is maybe somebody like Matt Reeves,
Yeah,
right?
Matt Reeves is great. Yeah,
But Matt Reeves might even be a little bit too elevated,
yeah, he
But
might be closer to like I don't know because yeah, the Batman is or even like his Planet of the Apes stuff is like it's very good. It's not
yeah,
like it doesn't just give like director for hire. Like it actually
yeah. But
shows that he has a vision.
the but but the Planet of the Apes things were director for hire gigs, kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
not. Yeah, of course. I just you know what I mean. Like it's
yeah,
clear
yeah,
that
yeah.
he has like an artistic flair, and it's not just boring. Anyway, as we keep going, next question, the one I want to start with really is Harrison Ford too old, and was his
Right.
performance good in this movie?
Yeah. Is Harrison Ford too old? Yeah, he's too old to be alive. You
Okay, I
know,
don't know about that.
I think we need to put a stop to it.
No,
Um,
I think I mean he did he say something about how he doesn't really want to stop acting anytime soon? Because I feel like I heard him say that.
Yeah, he said in an interview during the Indiana Jones press junket where people were like, "You're old as fuck. Why are you still in this movie?" And he was saying like, "Yeah, I just like acting and I don't really have any plans to stop anytime soon. Like he doesn't have any plans to retire. He
Yeah,
just wants to keep working." He said, I think he said something like, "I keep out of trouble when I'm working" or something like that. Uh,
yeah,
so
no,
yeah,
that makes sense.
he is wants to keep acting until he's older. Um,
Yeah, I think when we like talk about this question, I think it's very specific to Indiana Jones. Of course, like nobody's too old to be acting. It's just I don't think it makes sense for him to still be playing this character. And of course, like as it's already been said and we assume is the case, he's not going to be doing it again. Like this is the last time we're going to see him playing Indiana
Oh my
Jones.
god, I it
Um,
has to be. It's like
yeah,
it has to be, bro. That's another thing. This is the third final Indiana Jones movie. Do you know how crazy that is? That's
yeah,
so crazy. This is the third time where
yeah,
they've made an Indiana Jones movie that was like marketed as the last Indiana Jones movie.
yeah.
They've been
And
ending
it's
this.
interesting to think about it too because it's like if it actually ended the first time with just the trilogy, would it be talked about with the rest of like the great trilogies? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
probably. I mean, like yeah, if they just ended it in the '90s with the Last Crusade, um,
yeah, but
probably.
but now
Uh,
we're here, and he's playing him again. Did you think he was good in the movie though? Because
I
yeah,
I think he felt like an old man. I think it was
yeah,
fine. I think it was serviceable.
I agree.
I think that there were some moments that were weird, and it's not even. I don't even think it's necessarily like Harrison Ford's fault as much as it's like a fault for the concept where it's like, why is this old man doing this stuff?
Yeah,
It's like because like yeah, he just like felt his age sometimes, but it's like. Okay, you're just an old Indiana Jones. Like
yeah,
Indiana Jones probably shouldn't be this old.
yeah.
Um,
No,
um,
I agree with that, especially when and we could probably even kind of transition into our next question here, which is whether or not we should give up on de-aging technology. But I think as we kind of talk about those two combined, it's like there's moments, and I saw something about this on Twitter as well, where someone was talking about how they were like, oh, there's scenes with Indiana Jones de-aged in this movie, but Harrison Ford's voice is old. Like you
yeah, no,
hear like a 70-plus-year-old man
the very
in this
first
young
scene of the
face.
movie is when we see Indiana Jones like during World War II, right?
Yeah,
Uh we see this old ass fucking dude and no,
yeah,
sorry. We see this young dude. We see this like young ass dude, right? Like CGI like deep fake technology. But then he speaks and it's like, "Oh wow, that is a wilted voice, you know?
yeah.
Like
Like
that
that
is
is
a
not the voice of a whatever 40-something-year-old man or whatever he's supposed to be de-aged.
No, yeah, that is a voice that has been through a lot, you know.
Yeah.
um,
But no, I think it's an important conversation for sure, the de aging stuff, because, I mean, one, we mentioned that if you're going to do that in a movie, you're probably adding to your budget significantly. Um, and whether that's worth it, and also just whether it works in a movie, because I'm not saying it doesn't work in any movie, but specifically for this movie, I was nothing more than distracted by it. Like,
I
as I was seeing the young Harrison Ford, I was just like, this just looks weird to me.
I think it was way too ambitious
Yeah,
in this movie, because it's like it's not. I assumed that it was just going to be like a flashback sequence, you know, like from the
yeah,
trailer. I assumed that it was going to be like only like a couple of shots, and not like the whole first act of the movie, you know,
yeah,
was going to have
yeah.
like
Major
this.
parts of the movie. Yeah,
Yeah, like we're like, you know, like somebody is doing like these stunts and stuff with Harrison Ford's face on his head, and it's like, this is
yeah,
not. I don't like this at all, because it's like, I think that if it was just like the beginning shot where it's like they take off the thing and it's just like him, you know, looking around, and it's like, oh, it's young Indiana Jones. I think that's kind of fine. I think it works. You know,
hmm,
I think it works if it's just that shot and we don't see him running
yeah. Sure.
around. You know,
Yeah.
I think it
It's
was just
just
so
when he starts
ambitious.
talking and moving and there's so much going on, I can't help but look at it and be like, I'm watching a deep fake. Like I'm watching
Yeah, it doesn't look
like something
real.
that does not actually exist and is not real. And it's just
Yeah,
so hard to look at. Like it's so hard to really get invested in a movie that way. And I think there's, a different conversation when it's in a really good movie. Like
like The
obviously,
Irishman.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
like, it's the best comparison is The Irishman because that's a movie that uses it well, because the movie's just good. And of course, it's like you're not going to tell Scorsese to not use de aging technology. If he wants to do it in a movie, then he's going to
I
make
mean,
it work.
Scorsese can do whatever the fuck he
But
wants to do in
yeah,
a movie.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like he's going to make it work, which is why I don't like want to say we should just give up on de-aging technology as a whole, but I just think where it's at right now, if it's in a movie like this, it's just going to distract me too much for me to buy into the movie unless you're
Yeah,
giving us something really good.
I saw some people talking about how like, oh, like why they could have just used a younger actor or whatever, and couldn't help but think like they just didn't watch the movie, because you cannot,
Yeah.
like, it just, you that it
It wouldn't make
fundamentally
any
would not
sense.
work if you used a different
It's the
actor.
same thing
Like,
as what they brought up, as what Ben Affleck brought up when he was talking about Air, where it was like, if we get an actor to play Michael Jordan, then somebody's going to look at the screen and be like, that's not Michael Jordan. It's like, if you get somebody else to play a young Indiana Jones, you're going to look at the screen and be like, that's not Indiana Jones. Like,
yeah, because it's not
um,
even just like young Indiana Jones. Like, it's like you're just recasting Indiana Jones, because like it is
yeah,
an older Indiana Jones than what was in like The Last Crusade, you know, but it's
yeah,
a younger Indiana Jones than in this movie, significantly.
yeah.
Like,
It's strange. And
yeah,
I think it definitely boils down to what you say about, I think it would make a lot more sense if it were limited to a scene or two in this movie and not however much time, because this is like a almost what, like 2.5 hour movie.
yeah, and I think
um
that there's like a full half hour, 40 minutes of on
yeah,
screen
it's
like
there's a good
deep
chunk of
fake
it.
Indiana
Yeah.
Jones. Not
And it sets
cool.
up, yeah, like it sets up a lot of the story, so you have, I don't know,
It's a screenplay
it's a
issue,
weird mix
actually.
because you
Like,
probably
yeah,
need some of that stuff for the story to make sense,
yeah,
because they do this thing that they kind of did with, Crystal Skull last time, where it's like introducing characters that we didn't previously know about that already have relationships to him. So it's like now we have to introduce how they fit into this story because we haven't seen them in the 4 movies before this. So yeah, just I don't know, weird because it kind of needs to be there, but at the same time, it's just doesn't work when it is there.
yeah.
Um, so overall, probably a negative for this movie. Um, anyway, um, we can skip forward a little bit to, I guess, the end of the movie, because there's some
Oh,
big
do you want to talk
questions
about
regarding
the spoiler?
the
Spoiler.
ending. Yeah, we haven't we really haven't spoiled anything up to this point. We really haven't even talked about any specific scenes, but, warning, I guess, what we're about to say is a pretty big spoiler if you care about the twist in the new Indiana Jones movie.
I will say,
Um,
I would not call it a twist. I think that is
Yeah,
setting somebody up for.
yeah. Twist is the wrong word, but just a surprise. Let's call it a surprise.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But anyway, the at the end of the movie, there's a scene where they go through a hole in the sky and travel way back in time to like ancient Rome. So the question is, was the time travel thematically effective, and is time travel the craziest thing in an Indiana Jones movie? Um, Personally, I
So
think when we talk about crazy stuff, it's got some competition.
yeah, I feel like the biggest competition comes from Crystal Skull, probably, right? Like,
Interesting. When the nuke goes off.
yeah, when the nuke goes off.
Yeah, I was gonna say okay because I think there's a clear top three here, and it's between this scene when they go back in time,
Yeah.
the nuke going off in Crystal Skull, and then the ending of Temple of Doom when there's the crazy supernatural stuff going on and everybody like gets evaporated. Um,
Uh,
I think between those three, um,
what about in the ending of Last Crusade when his dad gets stabbed and that but then like his wound just heals miraculously because
oh,
of the Holy Grail.
true, true. Yeah, there is some okay, and that's the thing that I think these movies have always been quite silly and like not they don't need to answer to any like logic or reality. Um, and yet
Yeah.
at the same time, I was still thrown off by them going back in time to ancient Rome. Like it happened, and I was just like, I just started laughing. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah,
It was
people
just kind of strange to me.
I've seen some people say that them going back in time is Indiana Jones jumping the shark, and I just disagree because
Mhm.
it's like there's been like other shit that's also been crazy like the whole time. Like at the end of Raiders, the very first fucking movie, they open up the Ark of the Covenant and then everybody fucking just like dies. And Indiana
Yeah,
Jones is like, "Don't open your eyes, don't look at it." And it's like, okay, so yeah, the Christian God is just real in this universe, confirmed, and he like
yeah.
kills people. So it's like time travel's not that big of a stretch, really. Like,
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and that's what I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Where it's like, and I think that's why I'm so confused by it almost because it's like, I think the idea, like on paper, when we talk about the question and how it's thematically effective as well, like the idea on paper for them to go back in time makes sense. I think,
yeah,
and I don't think it's like that far outside of like what we expect from Indiana Jones. It's just that when it actually happened, I like my only reaction was to laugh at it.
yeah, no, it's
Um,
stupid. It is dumb. I will say that it's dumb. I think it's more dumb than I think it's like about as dumb as the nuke scene in Crystal Skull in terms of like this is doesn't make any sense actually.
yeah,
um,
and the nuke
um,
scene to me is like a bit different because I think it's funny in a good way almost. Where I'm just like, this is so like he just walks out of it like with pretty much no scratches, and I'm like, okay, that's fucking stupid, but like in a
yeah,
good way because I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like it's just a fun thing. I think this being the climax of the movie definitely adds to like how ridiculous it is compared to the nuke scene, which is like 20 minutes into that movie.
yeah. I think that it's not effective thematically. I was
Yeah,
expecting it to be because it's like I was expecting it to be because when I wrote that question, I heard somebody saying that it was, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
interesting. So I like kind of jotted that down. But after watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, I understand. Like this is the culmination of his entire life's work, like seeing history in action, right? But
yeah,
it's like it's the siege of Syracuse, which is like important, but it's like that's not like the siege of Syracuse is not the culmination of Indiana Jones's life work, and it's like
yeah. It's
Archimedes is cool, important guy, but it's like why would that be Indiana Jones's hero? Archimedes
yeah. I don't
specifically,
know.
out of anybody else. Also, how the fuck did both him and Helena know how to speak ancient Greek? Like,
Well, that part I didn't even think about really because I don't know. They just both like
yeah, I know, but it's still
it's
like
like kind of a question that's answered by the movies as a whole. Like they're both clearly very smart and like well studied and know all this stuff that nobody else really knows because this is their passion. But I agree that it's just kind of random. Like it's just they picked a specific moment for this movie to like revolve around out of all of the moments that could, like you say, like capture his life's work and his career. So maybe it wouldn't have worked regardless of what the moment was, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I
It's
I
also,
don't know that it ties into the themes in like in a really neat way.
yeah, I don't know. It seems very silly. Specifically, and this is dumb, but I keep thinking like Archimedes is not like that famous in the
Yeah,
grand scheme of scientists, like
yeah,
in the history of the world. Like he's like obviously super important. And this is another thing where it's like I don't like Archimedes is like known for his like water displacement study, like the
yeah.
math
Which
that he
is
did.
brought up in the
It's like
movie.
referenced in the movie, but the whole
Yeah,
movie's about how he made a time travel machine. Like,
yeah,
like what the fuck?
yeah. It's that's what the movie's centered around. Yeah.
Like what the fuck?
Um,
I
yeah,
don't
I don't
know.
know. I just it didn't really um stick for me. I guess that
Yeah,
there's not
no.
really like a clear like theme that works for me in this movie. No, I don't know. There's definitely interesting ideas, I guess. Um, but all in
Yeah,
all, I
yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
like. I didn't really come out of this thinking all that much about anything that's really like kind of presented to us. And yeah, I don't know, just that whole kind of like decision moment during this climax where it's like where he's like very set on like, no, I want to stay here, and she like eventually ends up knocking him out so that she could bring him back
That was silly.
to his.
Um,
Yeah, I just I don't know. In and I don't know, maybe I just like I'm not like getting the character completely, but I think it's also kind of because of what you mentioned about this just not making sense as like being his career defining thing. I just didn't think it just didn't make sense to me for it to be that much of a fight, for him to be like so demanding of like, no, I'm staying here. Like I just thought she would convince him, like, which I don't know, maybe wouldn't have made for as good of a joke, of course, because she punches him in the face, and maybe some people in my theater laughed or whatever. But I just didn't think that he would be that set on staying there. Like,
well, because I guess it's like he's towards the end of his life, and like he has, it's like he kind of
yeah,
says in the movie, like he has nothing to go back to, And
yeah,
I'm like,
but
sure,
he knows that's not true, which is I don't know.
yeah,
I kind of. I mean, I guess obviously his relationship with Marianne is like not a thing anymore, but then it is a thing at the end
yeah.
of the movie, of course, when he does go back.
It's
But
that's
I feel
also
like it's yeah.
wait.
I don't know.
Oh my god. Um,
To be fair, he's kind of a selfish character throughout the franchise. So
yeah,
like I guess it kind of makes sense that he doesn't really care that much to go back to her, um, but then that also makes it a little bit weird because it's like he was so set on not going back, but then they end up together at the end, and it's like supposed to be this really sweet moment, and I'm just like, it would have been sweet if he like wanted to go back and see her,
no, I
but he
I
kind of
don't
didn't.
really like the ending at all. You know what? Well, you know what was a sweet moment between Indiana Jones and Marion when they first reunite in Crystal Skull. You
Yeah,
know, that was a
yeah.
sweet moment. I don't know. This felt like,
Yeah,
damn,
because I
these are.
like their relationship a lot. Like, and I think that that might be their relationship. Even might be kind of like the deciding factor as to why I like the first movie the most. Maybe I don't know. I'm still
Yeah,
a little bit torn about which one I like the most, but
you're
yeah,
you're
I don't
not a
I,
you're not
like.
a Last Crusade truther.
Well, I think I'm. That's what I'm saying. I'm kind of torn between those two, between Raiders and Last Crusade. I don't know that I could really pick. I gave them the same rating. Originally, I gave Raiders a higher rating, but then when I watched all the movies through, I was like, no, these seem pretty even to me, and I haven't really been able to make a decision on them. But yeah, I think she's particularly good, which is why it kind of stinks that it ends on her in a way that doesn't like really affect me at all. Um,
Yeah,
because I wish that
it
was
made me
more
feel not
impactful.
good. It actually made me feel not good because I was like, damn, she's old as shit, dude. Like I was like, what the
Yeah,
fuck? Um, I was like, they
Yeah.
just dragged this old lady to a fucking movie set for no reason.
Yeah,
Like,
like for a reunion that isn't really that impactful.
yeah, I'm like, that's
Um,
weird.
yeah,
Um,
I don't know,
you know what I
but
did like though?
our last little thing here kind of, I guess, pertains to two different things.
Yeah.
Would you watch a sequel about Helena, which is Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character for those people listening? Which we could talk about Phoebe Waller-Bridge in this movie as a whole, but yeah,
She's good. It's also, but you know what? I think she's good, but she's doing so much heavy lifting. She's doing
yeah,
so much heavy lifting in this movie, doing her whole shtick, trying to like be charming and etc. To like put some fucking energy in this shit, dude.
yeah,
They really pin a whole lot on her. Uh,
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I'm a huge Phoebe Waller-Bridge fan because of Fleabag. I think it's an amazing show. I think she's awesome. She's clearly really talented, and she's still showing that talent in this movie. Like she is, like you said, like she's carrying a lot of this movie. And she's pretty much my favorite part of this movie, which I still haven't been able to really decipher if it's just because of how much I like Phoebe Waller-Bridge or if she really is the best part of this movie. Um, but I think when you get into sequel territory, there's just too many like glaring red flags to me for that to be a thing. Like on the one hand, this is, in my opinion, the worst movie of the franchise, and it's the one movie without Spielberg. So it's like, if they do go into sequel territory, is it going to be James Mangold? Is it going to be another director? And regardless, are they going to be able to even make it make sense or be anywhere near as entertaining as the early movies? And then
no,
on the other
yeah,
hand, I can't like help but think about just the overwhelming like outrage from misogynists who like don't want to see a franchise handed to another character, never mind like a woman. um
yeah.
yeah, I
Phoebe
don't know.
Waller-Bridge is so good though. Um,
Yeah. No, I mean
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's like this weird thing because I'm like, yeah, she'd probably do good at it. Like, but I also would probably rather see her do something else than big blockbuster Indiana Jones movies.
yeah.
Because she's just like way too talented to be
Well,
kind of like,
I don't know if she's gonna do anything else.
yeah. Well,
Because
we
you
are
know,
actually going to talk about her in the news. Spoiler, but we'll get to her when we get to the news. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
I
I
think all in all, I'm a no on a sequel.
I would watch it.
Yeah, I'd
Um,
watch it. Sure. If it's her,
I
I'd watch it. If it's somebody else, maybe not. But
think that they shouldn't make it. I think it would be a fucking horrible decision for them to do that.
yeah,
Uh, especially
yeah,
since this movie is going fucking triple cardboard at the box office.
yeah.
um,
No, that's true. I can't imagine them making really any money without Harrison Ford in a future sequel, because of how bad this one's already doing. Um, I don't know, but do you have any final thoughts about Indiana Jones before we wrap up?
Raiders of the Lost Ark is fucking sick.
Agreed. And so is Last Crusade. And to be fair, in moments, for me at least, so is Temple of Doom. I don't like it as much as
Um,
those. And even Crystal Skull. That's what I'm saying. I think
yeah,
Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull have their moments, but I think the other two are just better all in all.
man, we could have done so much more on Temple of Doom. If we just talked about Temple of Doom instead, I feel like we would have had so much more to talk about.
Yeah,
and
sure. But of
like,
course, that's not the newest one.
yeah,
Um,
no, Temple of Doom's cool. I would have liked it more if it was better. But part of it, but the fact that it's like the bad one also makes it kind of interesting to talk about because it's like it's not just like oh it's like the bad one. It's also it's like oh it like had like it's bad because of like production issues between and like Spielberg and George Lucas were in like bad spots in their life and all the and I'm like oh that's fucking interesting. That's we could talk
yeah.
about that. You know like
Yeah. I mean, I think
like
all the Indiana Jones movies as a whole are more interesting than what we got out of this one. But that's what we got. This is what we got. So
yeah
yeah,
we're
Dial
living
of
in hell.
Destiny, pretty average movie
It's
for
like
me.
it's so painfully uninteresting.
Yeah, yeah. It's, I don't know. I was hoping I'd like it more, but it is
I
what
was
it
hoping I liked it
is.
more. I
And
thought that it was a I thought it was a fire trailer. Thought the trailer was awesome.
I was intrigued by the trailer for sure. Um, but that's not the end product, and here we are, I guess. Anyway, if you're ready, then we can move on to some news before we wrap up. Um, okay, let's see what we got in the news. First couple bits of news are pretty sad news, so let's get that out of the way first, I guess, so that we could end on a happy note. Starting with Alan Arkin, who passed away at the age of 89, had a career that spanned 7 decades, almost 100 movies, 4 Oscar nominations, 1 Oscar win, and a bunch of other awards to go along with that. I don't know how many Alan Arkin movies you've seen or if you feel any particular way, but
Seven
I
decades
really
is
liked
crazy.
him in the few movies I saw him in.
Yeah, no.
Um,
Rest in peace. That's fucked up.
yeah. I mean, obviously, super long career, and he lived to 89, but he's just very talented actor. I particularly, I already mentioned he won his Oscar for Little Miss Sunshine. Yeah, that movie, I love that movie, and he's my favorite part of that movie. So, and then of course, the other one I think about is, which is a really random example, but
Minions.
but no, not not Minions. No, he's in the like 2000s. I think it's like 2008, the Get Smart movie,
Oh
which is
yeah.
based on like the Get Smart TV show, and I just remember watching that movie so much as a kid, and he's like kind of, at least in my memory, kind of the funniest person in that movie. And I know he's a really obvious, like I haven't seen too many of his movies, but really gifted comedic actor. From what I could tell, he was also in that show that did very well at the Emmys. I think for the couple years it ran, the Kaminsky Method. I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, just really talented actor. So that's very unfortunate, but rest in peace to Alan
Should
Arkin.
we shift gears and do an Alan Arkin podcast where we just do an episode for
Imagine
every
we just,
Alan Arkin
yeah,
movie?
that would be, there's a lot. And there's probably a number that, no point in watching, but he is a really good actor.
Yeah.
um, yeah. Anyway, our next piece of news also along the lines of just awful stuff to talk about, but Idris Elba says that racist comments
Oh
turned him
Jesus.
off the idea of playing James Bond. His quote is, "Those that weren't happy about the idea made the whole thing disgusting and off-putting. It became about race. It became about nonsense, and I got the brunt of it," which, yeah, obviously stinks, and also just like I would have really liked to see Idris Elba as Bond if we have to get more Bond movies. Like he's definitely one of the people that I'd probably be the most excited to see as Bond. I know you. I'm assuming you're on like the Henry Cavill train, or
No,
I
I
don't know who you'd
think
want to see, but
they're both too old.
yeah,
Idris Elba especially too old. But
yeah,
I think what I'm assuming happened was that he was in talks with the Broccoli family, probably not to be like the like to like be like in a James Bond movie or like two James Bond movies, right? Not necessarily to like hold up the like a
yeah,
Henry Cavill, not sorry, Daniel Craig replacement necessarily, but like as
yeah,
like a filler while they do look for like a 15-year replacement. Um,
yeah,
and those rumors got out, and then he was like, I don't know if this is actually worth even talking about. you
yeah.
know like
And it's just like that just stinks too, because it's like there's also already like so much racism in just Lashana Lynch like playing a role in the last James Bond movie. Not even just
yeah,
like it's
she's
still a Daniel Craig movie, but just the fact she even like took the 007 name just led to like so many people being disgusting online. So I can only imagine like what people were saying about him. I mean, I never even saw that stuff because I don't really read like too much James Bond stuff, but
yeah.
um yeah, I don't know. That stinks
Yeah, no,
because
people fucking stink.
yeah, that's
People
that's the
stink.
takeaway.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on. This is a pretty big piece of news that, depending on, I guess, how it turns out, might get brought up on a future episode. But amidst the already ongoing writer's strike, we're now on the brink of a Screen Actors Guild strike. The contract was set to expire a couple days ago as of recording this, but it's since been delayed to July 12th. So, like 10 days from when we're recording this. They're going to continue negotiations. And if they don't get to a new contract by then the actors will be going on strike. There's been over 1,000 actors up until this point that we're recording that have signed a letter to SAG saying that they'd strike if their requests with studios are not met. So that could be a very big deal amidst an already ongoing writer strike that actors have already been participating in. Um,
Yeah, no, that would suck. That would be very bad. I mean, it would be good, probably, actually, but it would
yeah,
suck for,
good for
um,
them, of course.
it would be good for the
Bad for the
writers.
outlook of movies in the future,
Yeah.
at least the near future. Which, yeah, it's the same thing that we already brought up when we talked about the writer's strike, where it's for us as viewers, it's not the best news because projects get pushed back and we get some pretty shitty stuff to watch. But on the other hand,
No, you
we're
get
not
stuff that
gonna.
you get your favorite stuff during the writer strikes. Kevin Miko
What?
eats good during the writer
Wow, you're
strike.
dropping a full name on
Uh,
the podcast. I guess my name's out there anyway.
um,
um,
that you get like double Love Island on during the
yeah,
writer
yeah.
strike,
No, I
dude.
got
You
all my good reality TV when the strike's going on. But yeah, no, like of course of course I'm in support of strikes regardless. It's just there's those two sides to it. But yeah, we'll see what happens in I guess a couple of days here. But it looks to me the reports that I read seemed like they are working. The discussions are definitely going on. It's definitely possible that there is no actor strike, but it seems like in these next couple days there's still a long way for them to go for that contract to make sense. So it's definitely, at least as of right now, pretty possible that actor strike could happen. Um, but yeah, well,
I'm gonna say it's kind of
yeah,
likely. I'm gonna say it's
I would
likely
say that as well.
because
It feels like the like general.
actors, because like very powerful actors have even like told
A
people that
lot
are.
of that list of actors. I was looking at some of the names, and there's a lot of very high profile people on there.
Yeah, because it's like it's not even like pressure just on the studio. It's also pressure on the members of the SAG board that are negotiating the members of like the negotiation board that are negotiating the deal. There's a lot of pressure on them saying like even if you do get a deal done and like we don't like it, we're just gonna strike SAG. Like
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. We'll see what happens, and we'll probably be giving updates in some of these next two episodes, I guess, when we have more news.
yeah,
But
because we're on like what like day 60 of day 70 of
the writer strike,
the
yeah,
writer strike.
we're pretty deep into it. I guess I don't know the exact day, but yeah, it's been going on for a while now, and it will be continuing to go on. Um, and our next little piece of news is we had to talk about this, of course, because it feels like we've mentioned this every week for the past, I guess, like 5 episodes now. Maybe not literally, but that's what it feels like. After talking about it all that much, our Superman legacy
Oh Jesus
casting
fucking
news
Christ.
is over. We have a Superman and a Lois Lane, and it's David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan. I know you don't want to talk about this too much, but of course I had to bring it up after how much it's been in the news for
Yeah,
the past couple
yeah.
weeks now.
Shit's
Um,
fucking boring. Shit is
yeah,
so boring. Fuck.
yeah.
Oh my
I do like
god.
Rachel Brosnahan. I will say that. I haven't seen her in that much, but I saw her in that Marvelous Miss Maisel show, and I was like, oh, she's really good actually. So I don't really care that much about that casting, but David Cornsweet does not excite me in any way, and
Do
the
you want to
movie
do?
specifically doesn't excite me. So,
Do you want to do a side bet for the rest of the cast of the small characters in the Superman
oh,
Legacy?
the
Um,
what's it called? The Lex Luthor rumors.
no, just over under, right? Over
Okay.
under. 1.5 black people in
Oh
Superman
my
Legacy.
god, Jesus!
No, I'm serious. Like over, like like what are we doing? Like,
You think there's a problem with all the white Supermen?
it's not even. I don't think it's a problem. I just think it's so. Oh, I think it's boring. I am
Yeah, I see
so
what you mean
like.
because they're never put like with a superhero that has had this many iterations, they have never like it just doesn't seem like they're pushing it in any interesting direction other than just making a movie that's similar to what we've already gotten, which is like a lot of superhero movies that have this many iterations. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
or
Even
even
yeah,
like with Lois Lane, it's like so. God, I'm such a fucking nerd, dude. This is so bad. But even with Lois Lane, this Superman Legacy, according to James Gunn, is going to be like the biggest inspiration for this movie is Grant Morrison's All Star Superman. Now, in All Star Superman, Lois Lane isn't white. Lois Lane is like a darker kind of. She's not necessarily like black overtly, but it's like she has like an olive toned, like darker olive toned skin, you know, with like
yeah,
very dark hair. And it's just like, oh, you know, she's not just like a quirked up white girl like how
yeah,
she normally is portrayed. And it's like, I don't know. It's like, can we get something here? I don't. It's I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know.
It does really lack any flavor or anything interesting. um,
Yeah, that's where I was like, this is why ever since before James Gunn was like, I'm gonna make a Superman movie. I was always saying like, I really fucking we need to give John Boyega as Superman. I'm like that's who I would cast Superman. Give me
that would be
John
cool.
Boyega as fucking
Yeah,
not just like John Boyega as like
he
the
deserves a big movie. Like
yeah, that's
he's
what I'm saying. And he like wants to be a superhero, I think. That's why I'm
yeah,
like and like that's why I was like, "Oh, and don't just give John Boyega like the Black Superman story that they've been thinking about with Michael B. Jordan directing for a while
yeah,
that's been rumored." No, just make John Boyega be fucking Clark Kent in your DC universe, dude.
yeah,
Like, I don't know, but that didn't happen. So,
yeah. Now we got this. And I don't, and neither of us, and also Owen, even though he's not here, none of us are excited for this.
no. No, Owen
In
is
any
this
way.
movie's biggest hater actually.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, last little piece of news here that is also part silly and part going back to what we hinted at earlier this episode. Two little bits of news pertaining to new series that will be coming out at some point in the future. The first one, an Among Us series, has is in the works at CBS,
It's
and
by
the
the
other one
guy.
is what did you say?
The Among Us series is the guy that did Regular Show, like one of the guys that did Regular
Yeah,
Show.
apparently,
Yeah,
yeah. It's like a very good animator,
yeah.
or
It's like a really good guy in like kids like children's animation. Yeah,
yeah. I think it could be. I mean, I'm not gonna watch it most likely because it seems like it's gonna be very much geared towards like very young children. But good for them. I mean, it was like a huge hit. The game was, and there's still lots of kids that are like obsessed with it. And there's all those like YouTube videos that are already like narrative Among Us things for kids. So it kind of seems like a logical
yeah,
thing. It's like in the realm of like the fact that they are making a Minecraft movie, you know what I mean? Which seems like it should have happened a long time ago already, but that kind of
yeah.
thing, you know, where it's like this just makes sense. So there's no real reason to like get too passionate about it.
I'm willing to bet that the Among Us show will be pretty good for what it is. I'm not saying it's going to be
Yeah,
like I'm not going to say like, oh, my top 5 shows of the year are like The Among Us, Above the Bear, or whatever, you
yeah,
know. But I think it's going to be like a pretty good children's show, all things considered, is what I'm going to be willing to bet because it's probably going to be like
yeah,
self-aware and like kind of like funny and interesting. But yeah,
yeah. I think it'll be cool. And then the other one is our final piece of news that also pertains to a series, which we mentioned earlier in the episode. Phoebe Waller Bridge says that her Tomb Raider series for Prime is going to be dangerous and exciting. And her quote is, "What if I could take the reins on an action franchise with everything I've learned, with a character I adore, and also bring back some of that 90s vibe?" Um,
I'll watch
I,
it.
yeah, I'm like on board. I don't really like feel any particular way about Tomb Raider, but I do feel a particular way about Phoebe Waller-Bridge's ability as a show creator.
Yeah. I'm a
So
big
yeah,
fan of the Tomb Raider IP. Actually, I think that
yeah.
just thinking about it
I
right now,
don't
'cause
really know anything about
it's
it.
not
I've
even
never.
something that I would even like say. It's if you were to ask me like, oh, what's like some stuff you're into, I would never say Tomb Raider. But I like thinking about it, I'm like, man, I am like a big fan of the everything. Like I love the Angelina Jolie movies. Like those were like really like fundamental movies for me as a kid. But I also
Yeah,
like I've played like every Tomb Raider game.
yeah.
um,
Yeah, that's where
uh,
I'm like kind of, well, that's where I kind of defer, where it's like I've never played any of the Tomb Raider games and I never watched any of the Tomb Raider stuff, so I don't really like have any real attachment to this, but I think just based on like my really limited knowledge, it makes sense. Obviously, like we already said, she's good in the Indiana Jones movie, so it's clear like this is already in her like ballpark, and she's good at making TV because she
yeah.
made one of arguably the best shows ever with Fleabag. So I think she's
And
a
it's
good person to have attached to this.
it's so interesting because I don't know. Tomb Raider is literally just girl Indiana Jones in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
um, like, is she gonna play Laura Croft, or do we know anything? Like,
yeah. I don't know if we
because
know if she's
she's
gonna
like
be.
writing the show, but yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I wouldn't be surprised if she also stars in it because that's she does do everything for Fleabag. She is both the
yeah.
star and the writer and the direct. Like she is in charge of it all creatively. So she's clearly capable of that. Obviously, this would be a show with a much bigger budget than Fleabag and a lot more moving parts. But
I would
um,
be. It would be cool
yeah,
for her to play Laura Croft. It would be
yeah,
a. She's a very much of a Zag casting, like very like atypical casting, like against type. Yeah, it would be
yeah,
against type casting, but it would be cool. It would be interesting. So I'm here
yeah.
to. I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll watch it as well. That's exciting. But yeah, that's our last little bit of news here. So that'll wrap up our short Owenless episode.
Yeah.
Be sure once again to follow us on Twitter and rate us on Spotify. And join us next week for episode 27. We're going to be talking about Insidious: The Red Door. So we'll see you next week.